When life throws you a curveball, how are you going to handle adversity? Welcome to the Fearless Mindset Podcast, where you're about to go on a journey as I interview security, business, and entertainment leaders on what it takes to stay fearless. I'm your host, Mark Ledlow, and enjoy today's episode. Hello, everyone. Mark Ledlow here, the host of your Fearless Mindset Podcast, coming to you from my paradise little ranch cabin here in Southern Oregon, enjoying the downtime and ramping up some new podcast guests this last few weeks. And so refilling the queue, and we'll be dropping them every other week with my team. And thanks for tuning in. We have a special guest who knows a lot of the same folks I know from this crazy industry called security that I'm in. And we started talking. I'm like, oh, wait, you know him? You know him? Oh, wow. It is small world. Well, a lot of commonalities, and we had a chat. And thanks, Ben, for coming on the show. And thanks for your time and looking all professional over there. And you get that. Were you a model at one time?
No. I played on the other side of the camera on occasion, just as sort of a hobby. But yeah,
directing. Okay, all right. Yeah. But for the audience, Ben comes from a very unique background. He served in the military. Thanks for your service in the Army. Appreciate that.
You're worth it.
And got some agency experience. So we'll take a deep dive into that. And you've served in Silicon Valley in many capacities in DC. And he's going to tell his story for the viewers and listeners of the show. So yeah, thanks for coming on and made this happen. I know you've been busy doing you're like a free market agent out there now, right?
Yeah, doing a little bit of independent consultancy, trying to sort of span professional roles, but keeping up to date, sort of understanding where the market is going, and it's a unique thing, and not something I ever thought that I would be doing, sort of that entrepreneurial work.
What do you think of being an entrepreneur versus being a C-suite level executive in companies running the security programs?
Yeah. So I think this is true of both the consultancy world, the entrepreneurial side, versus the in-house. It's all sales.
Right? All sales.
And so I hear a lot of people in the security industry talk about, can we make security a business facilitator, or can it be a profit center? I always look at security as it's depending on what the business is. To me, security will always be a cost center. Right? So I've worked in the biotech and the pharmaceutical world where the job is to find, make, sell drugs. It wasn't to secure the building, the people, or the operations, but we did that so that the company could find, make, sell drugs. And so finding a way to do that required a sales capability, because we were a cost. And the company wanted to funnel its money into research and development, or to streamlining how you manufacture a particular product, or you got to beat down doors. So you got to make sure that you got all the greatest, smoothest marketing material, and the sales reps get all their training. And so, ultimately being in-house as a chief security officer, anybody kind of up the chain, it is a sales role.
Wow.
And so if you take it outside in a consultancy or as an entrepreneur, you are still in effect doing the sales role. It is just, you're sort of singing for your supper a little bit more. And so I've looked at the roles as, I enjoy the sales component of it less, but it doesn't matter whether you're in-house or doing the independent thing or the consulting thing. You still have to sell the value and the return on investment for security spend in every gig that you have.
Wow. So you got to sell the return on investment in the company, and you being the chief security officer of that program. And you're always fighting for budgets. I talked to some friends of mine that are CISOs in different organizations that are client of ours. They're constantly battling the CFO. And the attorneys back and forth. And I always make the joke, well, you are kind of fighting for their bonuses.
Right. Well, there's a corporate pile of money. And depending on where the company is in its life cycle,
Mm-hmm.
it may be in we got to spend money to make money, or it may be in the we are going to spend significantly less and squeeze as much value out of whatever we have already as we
Mm-hmm.
can. And so again, my view on security is it tends to be the cost center.
Mm-hmm.
And when companies, as we're seeing right now anyway, a lot of companies are downsizing, they're shrinking. They still know that they need the program. They still know that they have a security, they do. They want to protect their people. They want to protect their facilities, their operations. So there is a cost, but it's how do you minimize that cost? And so
Right.
it is the CISO job is a political game as much as it is do you understand the ones and zeros on the cyber side? Do you understand the fences and the CCTV on the physical side? Like at the end of it, it is the CISO chair is you're playing politics. You're fighting budget, fighting for budget with everybody else who also is fighting for budget.
If the sales piece comes into play for that
Yeah.
role. Okay. What to give us a forecast of what you see in the next few years? We have a new administration, and we got tariffs going crazy. Who knows how that affects pharma or the industries out there? What advice do you have for the up and coming generation of CISOs that want that sexy title? They want that sexy, I want to be a chief security officer of an organization. What is your advice to those folks getting in this crazy industry?
So, getting into the industry is different than a trajectory where you end up needing to play those political games, needing to be the voice and the face of security at all levels of the organization. But ultimately, if you really do enjoy that almost the high value sales piece, it is relationship based. You can't sell to a CEO or a CFO or general counsel unless you've got a solid relationship with those individuals for the kind of program that I wanted to build, right? So if you are an up and coming, you want to be a chief security officer, you want to get into, and I use that on occasion. I'll use the CSO and the CISO interchangeably. If you want to be the head of the security function for your company, whether that's cyber, whether that's a physical piece, your job really is to advocate for how do you protect people, facilities, operations as much as possible, given what the political climate is in your company. And if you enjoy doing that, then that's sort of, you've got to be very good. You got to be polished. You have to have I used to carry around 3x5 index cards with my 5 talking points. If I ran into, I've got 5 minutes with the general counsel, here are the 5 things I need to chat with you about. I didn't try and get on his calendar. I just saw him in the hallway and said, I need 5 minutes.
Easy enough.
Right. And it was ultimately with when it comes time, I'm going to make the sales pitch.
Wow.
So it's building a relationship. So if you enjoy that piece, if you enjoy I want to spend time getting to know them, getting to know the business that they support and their roles in that, and then knowing and being ready for the opportunity to sell, then, sort of that to me is where the CSO role sort of goes. Okay. If you just want to be a practitioner and be really, really good at it, then maybe steer the path a little bit away from the chief role, because I found that over the last couple of years, especially at the tail end of my career at my last company, I didn't roll up my sleeves and do a lot of work, and I missed it.
Interesting.
I still, and sometimes I dive down a little bit too deeply, and my team would be like, Ben, we've got this. I'm like, I know you do, but I still want to play a little bit in the space. So it does. I think there's a personal inventory that people need to take. Like, what is it that you want to be when you grow up? And as you get a little bit closer to the top, do you want to be the political sales rainmaker, and whether that's internal or external, or do you want to be the practitioner? And depending on where you land on that split, that's how you chase after. the next
Got it.
role.
I know the audience, a lot of the audience are in the exec protection game, like where I'm from. And they're, we have a new administration in office. We have the tariff thing going on. From your level at 40,000 feet looking down, what advice can you give to the audience that are in the industry going, holy crap, it's slow, it's dead, there's no work? Um, what hope do you see? What's kind of, if you can give a forecast to those men and women in this industry called executive protection, what would you advise them to do for in the foreseeable forecast future of the industry? Is it going to be better? It's going to be hot. Get out of the industry, go do cyber. What's your advice?
So as I look at some of the cyber conversations that happen and some of the EP conversations that happen and some of just the general security, everybody is having that sort of, what should we chase next? Right? Should we get out of this particular silo and jump into this particular silo? And so I'm looking at people in the cyber industry who are like, I don't want to do cyber anymore because and there's a truth to it. Sort of the AI capabilities in the cyberspace are sort of, like the need to be able to code is sort of going away.
AI can do that.
The need to be able to leverage AI to do the coding hasn't and won't go away. But some of the cyber people are saying, I think I need to move. I think I need to switch my focus because I'm going to be replaced, or there's no longer an interest in this particular silo. So when you look at sort of the executive protection world, it's sort of the same thing. Like, and I mean, I actually, as sort of a security generalist, am looking, and there does seem the pendulum swings right now. There's a little bit of a perception as reality from my agency days. There's a perception that all CEOs and all C-suite are under significant risk, and the EP world is where people should be shifting.
Interesting.
And now, but if you're an EP professional and you're like, I think that I want to get out of it because the pendulum may be either swung or is swinging from my chair in another direction. So I think that the advice that I would give on that is I continue to believe that security is a necessary cost. There's an insurance component to it. Now we can talk about how to pivot that and how to make it a more proactive solution for companies. I still think at the end of the day, it's a necessary cost. So how you build a program that meets the absolute corporate need. And if you are in the right chair and you are executing on an actual corporate need, your job isn't going away. Right. So if the program, if an executive protection program is absolutely risk-based and appropriately so, that job's not leaving.
Wow.
Because if you look at risk on likelihood and consequence, the consequence of if you've done the right risk assessment, then the consequence to your company of the loss of which member of the C-suite that you happen to be protecting, the likelihood piece probably not going up dramatically as a result of what we've seen. The perception is that it may have gone up a little bit, but the consequence is still there. So if you've got the right program designed with that risk-based mentality and you've sold it that way to say, this is what we cover. We're not covering everything, or maybe we are, right? But whatever you're covering, if it addresses the risk for that company, then you've landed in a good space. So I wouldn't say now is the time to, I'm going to take off this hat and put this hat on. I think it's always important to develop professionally. So expand the capability, go ahead and do some, I'm staring down at my official practice tests for my CISSP.
Nice.
Because I think continuing education in the security industry is important. And as a generalist, I've got to be inch deep, mile wide. But I think that conversation is happening across the different silos in security.
Now, what do you see as a new emerging industries that will need EP? Because I know we got the crypto thing starting to blow up. And that's like the Wild West and blockchain currency stuff. So that's got to be, I've heard through different sources in the Bay Area that that's like the new thing, crypto billionaires and whatnot. And I'm like, it's just different economies are being created constantly, especially
Mhm.
in the US here, because free market enterprise is such a big significant of what we do.
Yeah. Well, and I think that Silicon Valley is an interesting animal in that in the innovation space, there's always the next big thing. And so
Mm-hmm.
far over the last, let's say 30 years, a lot of innovation has sprung from this area,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's crypto, whether there's something coming around the corner with sort of, how do you expand on AI business?
Mm-hmm.
Is that a standalone from tech? Is there something else that comes as a result of sort of the economy shifting?
Mm-hmm.
In my view, I still think security is security. It's
Mm-hmm.
sector agnostic, and so where the economy goes, security will be necessary. And
Mm-hmm.
the interesting thing is, in my mind, as sort of those as the founders and the people who get massively successful super quickly, they still think of themselves as, I'm just, especially in Silicon Valley, I'll stereotype, I'm just the kid wearing the hoodie. You're the kid wearing the hoodie who's now worth, $1 billion.
Mm-hmm.
And independent of your personality and your personality quirks and what, like the political volume in the U.S. and internationally as well, has gotten so loud that if you end up on the wrong side, you have raised the likelihood on threat to you in a way that you maybe didn't intend, and you have almost no control on the consequence piece. If
Mm-hmm.
you're a founder and your company gets super successful, your consequence piece goes all the way to the right because
Mm-hmm.
you are the IP. And so it is convincing those individuals that they actually need a program. And that goes back to the sales piece, that goes back to the perception as reality piece, that goes to the making sure that whatever it is that you build is
Mm-hmm.
risk-based, matches the culture of the company,
Mm-hmm.
but still does, as much as possible, decreases the likelihood because the consequence is still all the way out to the right.
And one thing too, you have a lot of in the Bay Area, the family offices
Mm-hmm.
that are representing the face of these corporations in the back end.
Yeah.
And a lot of them, like the CEO that was shot and killed in New York, just by that one individual. It's like he didn't have any security with him. And
Right.
most of these guys out here take Uber, these crypto folks, and they're worth $1 billion. They're just taking Uber going point A to point B in San Francisco. I'm like, what?
Well, and, so this goes back probably 20 years. Yeah. So I was having a conversation during my DC days and early into the security world. And I was talking to an advisor to a company, and he was saying, listen, you can do security in two ways.
Mm-hmm.
You can sort of go completely incognito, as this tech founder happened to do the last time he was in Sao Paulo. He wore t-shirt, helmet, jeans, got on a moped, and this was a big name founder. This is not somebody that I, even as a baby security professional, would be like, he did what? Because he just felt like he could blend in.
Mm-hmm.
And in Sao Paulo, nobody knew who he was because he was a tech founder. So it wasn't, but he was the name and the face of that company, which is now massive. Flipping that, and because this guy was sort of senior gray hair advisor type who'd worked for various presidential administrations, he's like, you can do the Secret Service style. And you show up to Sao Paulo, you've got the 3 armored SUVs, you're rotating where the principal sits, you're doing the whole thing. So you could, either one of those things, if the executive, if the principal goes into and out of Sao Paulo and accomplishes all of their business objectives, that's a successful trip.
Absolutely.
And so, I look and say 20 years ago, like it hasn't changed dramatically.
Mm-hmm.
There's a having a conversation with somebody. Their CEO likes to ride around on one of the little motorized scooters,
Wow.
and I'm like, he's probably worth a little bit more now than he was when he started that habit.
Mm-hmm.
And I've also worn the environmental health safety hat on occasion. From a safety perspective, I don't love that either. Those are the ones where you fall down. Is he wearing a helmet? Did he break his collarbone? Yeah,
Yeah.
I think there are multiple ways where a company can have security for its senior most executives. And
Mm-hmm.
that's why, to me, it's how do you formulate, how do you do the risk-based assessment? How do you make sure that a security program is built around the culture of that
Mm-hmm.
company and does allow, just like the guy flew down to Sao Paulo, he got in, got out, did everything he needed to do, and did it on a moped.
Got lucky.
And he got lucky.
And two, think about Central South America right now. The cartel are just,
Mm-hmm.
we shut down the border. That's been locked down. And so now the cartel, they're smart business people. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
drugs are just a product that they use.
That's
Now,
right.
human trafficking, they're very creative in how they create business. They
Mm-hmm.
have to be. That's just how they're wired. And it's going to be interesting to see how that shakes things up from south of the border of Mexico all the way down to South America. They're going to be changing things up quite a bit. And
Yeah.
then the pressures, of course, that the administration is putting on them. It'll be interesting to see how it changes the dynamics of business, then
Mm-hmm.
security servicing that business.
Absolutely. Yeah. So
So,
not just for executives who
mm-hmm,
happen to be traveling into those places, but the local country managers who
mm-hmm.
work for American companies.
Right.
They are the face of, and in a lot of instances, they make multinational pay.
Wow.
And so having and that conversation is, you think about, sometimes it's difficult to get the C-suite to understand we need
Mm-hmm,
to put you in, an armored car with a security trained driver.
mm-hmm,
And now you're having that conversation with the local country manager who has existed in that market,
mm-hmm.
speaks the local language, grew up in that neighborhood, knows all the ins and outs. And you're saying, you're pretty valuable to our company. Right? The executive protection bubble goes outside the C-suite sometimes. So now it's just personnel security,
Mm-hmm,
but we're still protecting the corporate brand in
mm-hmm,
Mexico City, in Sao Paulo, in Bogota, wherever it happens to be.
mm-hmm.
And that's why take it back to the sales piece. Here's the data. Here's the anecdotes that hopefully drive home that data. And here's why it is that we now want to put you into that armored car. Or here it is that we want to provide you with a driver. So we really don't want them kidnapped.
Oh no. Don't want to pay extortion or ransom.
Yeah.
Yeah, do you see the family office? So I hear there's a lot of resistance from the family office wanting to have security around because they just don't want to have their privacy invaded.
Right.
I get it. They don't want to be bugged. Some strange guy sitting in the car in their driveway. I'm like, who's that guy?
Yeah.
It's just, and I understand the invasion of privacy, but if you're worth multi-billions of dollars, you got to have insurances and safety circles around your infrastructure. And I still hear there's a lot of resistance to that.
Yeah. Well, and then as we talked about with the exec going down to Sao Paulo, got lucky. Perception is reality. Nothing has ever happened to me or my family before. Why do I need this now?
Does it come
So
down to they don't want to
yeah.
pay a cost? They don't want to spend the money.
Depending on the level of the family office, it's not the monetary piece.
It's not
It's the privacy piece. It's
privacy. Okay.
and it's I've lived in this neighborhood my entire life, or I grew up in this city my entire life. I'm still that person. I'm still, the kid who went to the local public high school.
Mm-hmm.
Your kids don't go to the local public high school.
charter
Your
school usually.
profile is much higher now, but in their mind, their perception is still that I'm just the average person. I want the average life. And
And you
it's
got the
not
executive
until
assistants and the chief of staff trying to push them. You need security. I don't want security.
right,
Back and forth, back and
right,
forth.
right.
I'm
Well,
sitting cost. Who's the
I
cheapest
think
person?
the other piece to this equation is, as security professionals, it's on us to find that right balance, that when we do get the opportunity to go in and do the job, that we do it in such a way that does sort of facilitate life, rather than being seen as, why are you sitting in my why are you in my driveway all the time? Right? It's how do you manage that perception so that you do become seen as a value. And it won't be every day, but the value does have a way of showing itself. And when I worked on the East Coast, and but budget's always an issue, and security as a cost in the grand scheme of most multinationals, not significant.
Interesting.
But when the CFO comes and says, "Hey, we need 10% across the board," then they come to global security and say, "Where's your 10%?" Well, this is essential. This is essential. This is essential. I tell you what, we can save 10% by getting rid of the C-suite drivers. They can now drive themselves to the office because we're on the East Coast, low security risk. They can get from point A to point B without trouble. Never mind. Right. You guys are fine, because there's a value to having that. And it's a business value to having that. So if as security professionals, we can figure out a way to manage that perception, to say, well, the reason that guy is sitting outside in your driveway is because when you're ready to go, he's ready to go. She's ready to go. Whoever it happens to be, driver's ready to go. That's why that person's sitting there. Because you as an executive, you as the head of the family, when you want to leave, you want to leave.
Right.
And the value of having the security function there is to allow you to continue to live your life, to work your life the way that you want to, and we protect you while you're doing it. So, but it's on us to sort of massage that perception.
Yeah, who has the most influence on those folks, advising them on, is it the chief of staff, the executive assistant, or general counsel that usually puts them over the edge to make that decision?
I don't think that it's a single role that's consistent across the various, and this is true, family office companies. It's whoever is the most trusted advisor. And that goes back to that sales, the relationship based. Identify who that most trusted advisor is, and spend as much time building that relationship as possible, because that's going to be the voice in the ear, sitting on the shoulder, talking to and saying, this is why you need it.
Interesting. So it's always come down to trust. That trusted relationship that's got that person that got that family office back, the C-suite's back, always got the financial backing, I guess, and the budget and all that type of thing.
Yeah, so it's
so complex.
It's finding the person who's the sort of the problem solver, guy, gal Friday. I need this done, and that person goes out and does it. It's the fixer.
The fixer. Huh. I've heard that term before in Hollywood, the fixer, in different movies and TV shows.
It was from my time in the Middle East, where sort of, whether it was a royal family member, a very wealthy, Arab patriarch, they had a fixer, and that fixer was the relationship builder. And so sitting, I spent some time working the American Consulate General in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. And the number of fixers that I met, it was their job to build relationships with the American government. Because when that family needed something, they just turned to the fixer and said, go get it.
is that Saudi culture in their in the, how they just work over there in Sharia law culture, or just
Uh,
Saudi how they do
so
things and stuff?
I don't know. I guess in the various places where I have worked, and that's why your question around, is it the chief of staff? Is it general counsel? It's it's consistent.
Okay.
Now in Saudi, I knew there was a profile for the fixer. And so when I met somebody who fit that profile, I'm like, I know what your job is. And that's fine. Like, we're going to build this relationship because
Yeah.
eventually you're going to want to come to me with something that you need.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, um, but that's, so I don't think that it's not Saudi specific. It's not Gulf specific. It's sort of culturally, those senior most people
Mm-hmm.
rely on those around them to solve problems. And so security, finding who that person is to be the primary problem solver. I mean, my last company,
Mm-hmm.
there was a chief compliance officer, called it the gang of misfit toys, because it was sort of CEO said, we need this solved. And they turned to my former boss,
Mm-hmm.
and he told people that's how, they said, we need this solved. And so my former boss went out, found me, and said, build us a global security program.
Whoa.
So culturally, it's finding that trusted individual, that trusted advisor, and that's who the primary point of call for sales is. Doesn't mean you can ignore everybody else, and definitely can't ignore the person in the senior most chair, but finding that trusted advisor, whether it's the Saudi fixer or chief of staff, chief compliance officer, general counsel, whoever it is, that's how the security function, from my experience, has been easiest to build.
Yeah, when you said you spent time in the Middle East, that was when you were working for the agency, you'd be in the CIA, right?
Yeah. So I was former Army. I was an Arabic linguist. Always volunteered to go to the Middle East, but I was in the military before or between the two operations in Iraq. So I was a peacetime soldier, and I always volunteered to go. And they're like, "You're too valuable a trainer. We want you to train our people so that, when we got the rotations to go to Kuwait, like, you did a really good job training those people up. So you stay here and train the next group to go."
Okay.
I'm like, but I only did the Army for 4 years. So I may have had the opportunity to go at some rotation. But it was, I asked once, and the company commander was like, "Nope, you're too valuable to me here. I need here."